Cool. So, hello everyone. Welcome to A World of Chaos, the first annual New Zealand Game Developers Conference rant. So, we're here to rant at you about AR for a little bit. I'll just introduce everybody here and we'll get started. First of all, that one's me. I'm Evie Powell. I'm a staff engineer at Niantic. And I get to work on an awesome team called the Tiger Team, where we get to marry really, really cool AR tech to our games and sort of just usher in that new next wave of emergent gameplay. Excited to be here. Next up, we've got Devi. And she is at the helm of Jix's business and operations, showcasing a blend of strategic acumen and hands-on implementation that fuels their success. Drawing from a background in computer science and a track record of propelling tech startups, her focus centers on driving innovation to market. She's also the proud mom of a toddler. Yes. Next up is Melanie. After over 20 years in the film industry, Melanie ended up as an entrepreneur prompted by her business degree. Her journey of developing mixed reality geofenced immersive playground started in 2011. Her first official AR playground product was launched in March 2016, followed by Magical Park, which is now the flagship game of her studio at GeoAR. These days, GeoAR specializes in simulation games for government, with most of its games being AR-based. And then last but not least is Yasas. He is a PhD student from the University of Canterbury, specializes in location-based gaming and multiplayer gameplay, using tools like Niantic's Lightship to create compelling experiences. All right. So, the objective of today, making games, especially on top of reality, is really, really hard. And as AR developers, we willingly introduce a lot more complexity into our experiences. Sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it works, but at a great cost. A soul tax, if you will. And so sometimes we need to talk about it with passion, and today we are here to do just that. So without further ado, let's get into it. My talk is going to be about real-world gaming. Oftentimes, pitches claim that they want to put a game or experience in the real world, and this is half-baked because they assume that the cool thing about their experience is the AR itself. And it's not AR itself that's cool. So here's some of the commonly cited reasons for using AR. The real world is cool. AR is new and interesting. It looks magical. I want to be able to play all the time. And it's infinite canvas, infinite content, endless world to play in. So you might even come to this conclusion by seeing a cool tech demo, or going to a talk about AR and why it's awesome. But as you know, this is a rant, and I'm here to have a really spicy take on all of this. You are wrong. AR is not inherently good for game design because of these things. It is good in spite of them, and I'm here to call AR out on its crap. So let's start with the first point. So there's a lot about the real world that's not cool. I mean, like grocery shopping and doing my laundry and, just there's so much about it. And so I don't really agree with the premise because often I make video games to escape from the real world. The world is full of stuff that I didn't put there. And as a game designer, you didn't put there. It's got all of these things: noise and pollution and distraction and people that are judging you, weather, lots of change. It doesn't stay still and doesn't cooperate, and it's dangerous. And so for all of these reasons, most of the time the world does not agree with you putting a game there. But Evie, you might ask, what about the cool stuff? Yeah. What about the mountains and valleys, the local libraries, my house, everything and everyone I've ever known and loved? Aren't they a part of the real world? Everybody thinks they get me with this point. Well, sure. Let's go ahead and just assume that, that stuff is cool. When I'm not so angry at AR, even I can admit that there are parts of the world that are cool. And that as an experienced designer, I want to make things cooler. Fine then, let's go ahead and posit that the real world is cool. I'm here to tell you that even if parts of the world are cool and that you want to make cooler, that you actually want to be a part of your game design, they don't actually want to be a part of your game design. We've established that the world is not agreeable. If the world is cool, it's because we're using the definition of being beautiful, fashionable, trendy, and most likely unapologetically itself. Check this out. I'm sure, well, whatever is on this phone is really, really interesting to this person. And yes, this is actually how I want to walk to work from now on, but I don't think the real world likes this very much. And with this example, I mean, yeah, what happens when I put stuff on top of this cool city I'm experiencing and exploring? Doesn't it feel more natural? Why wouldn't I want to read reviews about clothing store on my device when I can jab at the space in front of me like this? I don't think anybody around them will appreciate this. So yeah, the real world, even when it's cool, sometimes it's not cool with you. Next point. AR is new and interesting. It is, until it isn't. We want to believe AR is a good investment because it's new and interesting, and that's great. We should want to try new technologies, but what happens when it stops being new? This is a common fate for AR experiences. They are really well received until the novelty wears off, and then what are you left with? It's a clear sign that in the industry, we haven't identified a clearest utility of AR in games. That's fine, we're new, but aren't we supposed to at least try? Don't count on it being new. Next, AR is magical, but what do we do with magic? We don't play games for magic tricks. So this is kind of an extension of my earlier point. AR can put things in our surroundings that weren't there. And when it comes to convincing illusion, it feels magical. But as a society, we haven't really figured out how to use magic in our day-to-day lives. We haven't really figured out how to use magic in our games that well. And I, for one, I'm not a magician. I have no interest in being one. I'm a game designer and an engineer. I want to make experiences that players take meaning from. I want to tell stories. I want people to challenge the mind, change mindsets, create teachable moments, cause people to grow. And I have no interest in doing magic unless it serves a deeper purpose. So next up, I want to play all the time. Sure, I want to play all the time. Doesn't mean you should. AR games have to think about things like not playing while crossing the road, detecting play while driving, inclement weather, because if the game allows for absurd behavior, your players are going to do it. And then endless worlds with endless possibilities, but it also means endless world with, depending on your data stream, no meaning or differentiating qualities. So from a designer's perspective, they might see the world and it looks like this. And if you're working on a global scale, this is a problem. But Evie, games do this all the time. Look at Minecraft. It's all green and blue and stuff in between the green and blue. It's cool. But this is a dynamic system. The players see this world. Our AR games don't see this world. They see a world full of stuff. And so the world likes to be seen. And as AR games designers, we need to learn to respect that. And judgment, just judgment. I don't need to go into judgment. Like, if you've ever played an AR game, you've experienced this. So what about AR is valuable? It's the shifting perspectives, the emotional beats and narrative, placing content in the world so that you can experience it, not just with your mind, but remember it with your whole body. That spatial connection to information is important, using context to inform an experience, and lastly, presence. There are plenty of good reasons to use AR. And when you use it the right way and use it with that context in mind, you can create really compelling experiences. Experiences from Peridot, taking pictures in Pokemon to have a really powerful sort of shareable experience, as well as using sort of lower fidelity AR to add some flavor to your run. Changing the context of your room so that suddenly you can become the protagonist in your own story. So ultimately, I'm just saying, if you take nothing else away, ask yourself if you're making a game experience utility or if you're making a gimmick. AR has no shortage of gimmicks, and we're starting to really see the utility of AR in our non-gaming applications, but there aren't many AR games that actually benefit from AR yet. So make some. Dig deeper. AR does not have to be your gimmick. It wants to be more. And here's some things you can think about if you're trying to make a game with no gimmick. Don't be afraid. You can try it out. but be ready to spend more time on your design, research, and rapid iteration, not less. Invest in mock sims and low fidelity testing. Use playtesters, understand your users, identify the utility, recognize that the rest of the world is not like your backyard. Try your experience even when you're tired, and AR is a tool. It needs your creativity and a good use case to actually be transformative and enduring. The end. All right. Is this one yours? Yes. All right.
Oh, that was a really good first set, and I'm nervous because I've never been known for my humor. So, yeah, probably going to be a lot of jokes that fall flat. Hello everyone. I'm Devi. I'm from Jigs. We are a bespoke XR technology studio in Christchurch. So what we really do, we've got a bunch of crazy people wanting to do fun experiences that educate, entertain, and, essentially just in the end, do things for people that would have a meaning. So we've been in the space wanting to think beyond entertainment for AR, and how can this be useful in industries, where there are real use cases. What am I here for? I'm not sure if there are many client or business managers here in the room, but basically to commiserate with you how hard it's been to sell it. You talk about how hard it's to make it, try selling it to people who absolutely have no idea what you're talking about. So that's essentially, it's just swapping some war stories today to see how hard it's been, The first thing I've got a bone to pick with, the clients always say, oh, this technology is constantly evolving. We want to build legacy systems that work for our kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. And if this technology is constantly changing, how do we trust it? But right back at you, that was Magic Book like 20 years ago, and it had everything we're talking about now: vision tracking, 3D visualization, multiplayer, immersive VR portals mixing with AR. All of this didn't come out of a tech oven yesterday. They've been around for a long time. So all of that's just an excuse, to say that, we just don't want to change. So essentially, what's the real problem? It's the mindset. It's the mindset of people, and I think it's come with two things. It's not just the clients who have their own inherent biases, but it's also as, former AR developers and stuff, we've also peddled this a little bit. We said, oh, it's a bait, it's a little hook to get people onto it. What's happened is people start treating this as a little sideshow. To say, oh, we'll do this to just grab attention and then lead people into the actual experience. But no, this is the actual experience. You're going to have to design for that. We're going to have to change that mindset. So what's really the solution for it? Or at least, disclaimer, we're not sure if this works for everyone, but it's at least worked for us. So what we've done is, when I've been thrown into the deep end, essentially, with hungry little lions as clients, and you have to have your own armor. You're going to have to say, I've got everything to convince them. What it means, the first one, design for your user, not for you sitting in your little room with your goggles. It doesn't work that way. So it's all about designing for who you're designing for. Otherwise, it's not going to work. The second one, we're talking about infiltrating massive industries which refuse to change, like healthcare, education, which means you're going to have to speak their language, walk the talk with them, ideally, which means you're going to have to do use cases, do a lot of prototypes. Otherwise, if you don't have it, you're going to be standing on the opposite side of the road screaming at them, rather than walking along with them and explaining what this is. The last one, find that little guinea penguin who wants to dive off, the early adopter. Everyone else is going to waddle along and do it. You're just going to have to find that first person, just convince them, tell them that everything you want to do, this will do. And, just get them. And then everyone else follows. So some examples of how I think we've done that in the past. So there's a little dental simulator. So those little numbers that you see there are how many years ago we did it. And a lot of them are still relevant. So I think the key for us with the first one that you say has been, AR is not just about a nice to have thing. It genuinely addresses the problem of accessibility. If someone's in a remote place and struggling to actually get a dental training because they have to travel miles to find a practice clinic where they can try and learn this can actually help them. It makes it accessible for people, and that's the key if we have to build use cases. The next one, probably, yeah. So with anchoring and slam tracking, so it's about building those little prototypes, finding the things. And the first one was one of like 4 years ago almost, a tiling company wanting to try it out here. And saying that how can this actually work? And this was before a lot of it came to within Unity, and it's easy to do now. The other one is a lot of people do product visualization with AR, and it's just placing them. So, but it's about how do you augment it on the actual real world? I don't want to see it on a model card. I want to see it on my car, and I want to see how that works. Relatability. You're going to have to personalize it, which means, that's the key. The key is about building sort of experiences that make sense to the people you're trying to sell to. If I go show them a flying monkey that can do different things in AR, my client's not really going to understand what I'm going to try to tell them, So, so wrapping up, the actual hurdle is not the hundreds of lines of codes and the different tools and the different things we grapple with. It's actually minds and perceptions. We're going to have to, we're going to have to take responsibility, flip the script, and say that AR is more than gimmick. Which means we're going to have to show examples that there is so much value for this. This could change industries. It could transform the way people do business. And in the end, I think that's what all of us want to do. It'll make lives easy for people like me, who are struggling to teach, or just tell the client, hey, want to give this a try when they don't even understand it. So yeah, mine's both at both sides, both of the clients and the developers. Get off the fancy goggles, You've got people using like a phone that's 6 years old, and, we're trying to optimize for that, Vision Pro, no one's probably going to take that in education space. So don't build for the Vision Pro, build for your legacy device, and see how it's actually going to be scalable across everyone, So that's me. That's, yeah.
Hello everyone, good to be here. First ever New Zealand Game Developers Conference AR Rant, and I am Yasas and I'm from HitLab, University of Canterbury. And if you have heard HitLab, we have cool tech and great people. So come and visit us if you have free time. So yeah, now Evie and Devi, they told AR is kind of gimmicks, but if you think about people and the context, maybe you can come up with great new AR experience. So let's try to analyze it a bit further. Because I'm a PhD student and coming from academic background, let's try to analyze kind of literature, what people have investigated, and let's try to figure out a kind of maybe new way of making meaningful AR games. So first, how to catch a Pokemon Go player, right? So like, have you ever spotted someone like weirdly swiping on their phone in a park? So maybe you can guess that could be an AR player, game player, Pokemon Go player, but maybe that person could be like just trying to delete all the unread messages, right? Or maybe that person could be actually engaging in a Bumble dating, speed dating session, right? Who knows? It can be swiping rapidly. But, right, now, of course, this one, it's not obviously a Pokemon Go player, right? Connected with wires to PC, and no, it's not the way we see, right? But of course, like Pokemon Go players are also connected to something with wires. Probably they are connected to power banks, right? They are connected to power banks because battery draining issues are there. And yeah, so that's kind of good sign. Typically, like, look for people who are standing in a kind of a group formation and they have wires hanging around, power banks are there. So that's kind of good way to identify a Pokemon Go player. So yes. So researchers have like explored this Pokemon Go and other interesting location-based AR games. They have dig deep into 11 different location-based games, and they try to categorize them into a couple of subcategories, considering the way these games are using AR game mechanics. So they consider these 11 games, and they try to identify what kind of AR game mechanics they are using. Yes, so most of the games are, I think you have played this, looks familiar. But interestingly, recently Niantic released Pikmin Bloom and Peridot. They didn't consider that, those two games, but others, it's there. Most of the common mainstream location-based AR games. But the thing is, if you interview these kind of game players, they will say, yes, we are actively using augmented reality, maybe to place virtual content on the real world. Or maybe there are a couple of interactions involved. But I believe we can do much better. Because most of these AR games give you the option to turn off AR. So what does that mean? That means AR is not a core fundamental feature of the gameplay. So if you can still play the game without AR, it sounds a bit gimmick, honestly. So it's good to attract people, of course, but honestly, we know as game developers, we try to turn off AR. There are various reasons. Now, at the same time, I should mention, a good story can't save bad gameplay. So your game mechanics matter. So you need to come up with better game mechanics. It's not just narrative. People say narrative, it matters. Yes, there might be good storyline, everything. I agree, but also you need to have better game mechanics and meaningful incorporation of these AR cool, unique features into your gameplay. Both matters. So what is meaningful play? Now, this is a quote from Rules of Play book. It's really nice. I recommend you to have a look. Now, the authors say, players, what does that mean by meaningful play? It's kind of gameplay that players are like relentlessly talking, even they travel so many miles to play this kind of a game and they are actively engaged in this kind of game. And perhaps the deepest meaning of meaningful play is its transformative ability. The games can transform players for maybe enhancing their health or mental states or building connections. But do we actually have proper meaningful games? It's something to think. Now, I'm coming from location-based augmented reality game designs. So I think we can incorporate game elements with real world and also the other way. We can bring real world properties, affordances to gameplay also. So I'm trying to figure out multiplayer location based AR games and I'm trying to connect spaces and people together, bringing remote places together in real time using AR. So I'm using Niantic Lightship ARDK and I've conducted my first user study and I introduced 3 different ways of bringing spaces together. Now I'm trying portals, or I call it windows, and my other mode overlay, it's real world size AR visualization and also tabletop mode. So I conducted my user study and I'm using real world people and I'm representing them using avatars and I'm connecting them. So I'm not going to describe my user study right now because I'm conducting another talk at 1:50. So if you are interested, come visit. So I'm going to dig deeper into this study, but findings are so interesting. So I'll share all my findings there also. But lastly, so these are some suggestions from me for you to maybe think further. Now, one thing is you can bring real world objects in real time your gameplay and incorporate. So there's cool feature from Niantic Lightship ARDK, which is really nice platform development kit. And there, now here you can see I'm scanning this fire extinguisher and I'm creating a virtual copy clone within AR gameplay. And then because my game design is like real-time multiplayer game, imagine my other player having a virtual fire in his kitchen. So as a remote player, I can scan a fire extinguisher nearby, a physical fire extinguisher, and then I can pass this fire extinguisher through AR portal, or maybe if the visualization is tabletop, I can drop it. So it's like passing objects from my space to the other space, so the other player can use it to extinguish the fire. So we can come up with such cool, more meaningful game interactions, and we can see whether players are embracing, ready to get that kind of way of gameplay. let's see. So that's what I'm working on, and that's about it. So we'll see. If you have any questions, please ask. That's all.
Since everybody got up, do I just?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Hi. So I'm Mel. I'm from AR Games, and I've been dabbling in augmented reality since 2011. I'm not a coder. I'm not even a game player. But I just had this situation where my stepdaughter, who was 7 at the time, didn't want to go back to the park. And I found that most frustrating. And so I thought if I combine AR with parks, then maybe she will go back to the park. So hence we started creating Magical Park, which is our flagship product. And what you heard earlier on came out in March 2016. At the time when I was developing the first prototype, like around 2013, 2014, I literally thought we would only have 1 or 2 years before everybody would be taking up augmented reality, right? Gosh, was I wrong. And I remember, this is one of my pet stories, telling people that we went for investment to get this game made, and the investors laughed me out of the room and said, nobody in their right mind is going to run around in a park with their phone in front of their face. Pokemon Go hadn't come out yet. So that's obviously all changed. And the one good thing about Pokemon Go is that all of a sudden everybody is an augmented reality expert, which is quite funny. But so anyway, I've been now working with geospatial AR for quite a while. And so I thought I'll play a little video, and hopefully it's on mute, so I'll talk a little bit about it just for context. So this is one of the games. No, it's not mute. Let me find the mute button. There's the mute button. Oops, what happened now? Where is the mouse? I pressed the mute button and it closed it. Can't even find the mouse. But while Evie tries to find the mouse, I'll keep talking. So basically, we drop digital playgrounds, augmented reality playgrounds, into park spaces around the world. The city pays us, we drop it into the park, it has a geo-fence, and our most important feature is to keep the player safe. We cannot have dinosaurs roaming around in car parks or unicorns being chased down the road. That is an absolute no-no. And see there, it's on the side. You just need to drag it over.
You just need to drag it.
You just need to drag it. Oh, cool. Awesome. Thank you. You saved me.
Did I do it? Okay.
I think
here
you
we go.
saved me.
Why,
Awesome.
thank you, youngling.
So this is one of our players running around playing the recycling game. And one thing that we found is that as the kids play the game and then they finish playing the game, they actually pick
Why,
up rubbish in the
thank
park,
you,
which is
youngling.
fantastic. Really love that. So that was just for context. Oh dear. That was just for context. Oh yeah, cool. And so I just wanted to talk about some of the issues. I can't even see my slide. So I just wanted to talk about some of the issues. So first of all, when we were onboarding, one of the problems that we're having is that parents and grandparents will never hand over a game to their child before, unless they have played it and tested it and made sure it's safe, right? So augmented reality there's no exception. And so what ends up happening is that the parent or the grandparent, and you need to watch me for a moment, will download the game and then start it and look at their feet. And even when we were playtesting in focus groups, I would stand next to them and I said, look up. I said, no, look up. It's like, no, up. Oh, I literally had to push the phone up. And then they would see something in 70-meter distance. And they would say like, oh yeah, I can see it over there. Yeah, nice. And I said, walk towards it. And they take one step. And I'd like, no, walk. And they take another 2. And it's like, God, how do I get it through to people how augmented reality works, especially geo-AR, geospatial augmented reality? How do I get that through? So super, super frustrating. So you can't actually accelerate the learning curve for users by more than 10%. There has to be a familiarity to what they're supposed to do. And if you step that through too fast, for instance, calibration, let alone the campus calibration or, like for AR core, AR kits, so, the stabilization calibration, how do you teach that to somebody who's got absolutely zero idea what you're talking about? Oh, awesome, cool. So then the next step is, we get people who text us and say, your app is not as good as Uber. Uber can find me anywhere. It's like, that's a completely different problem. I'm trying to keep your child safe, playing in a park. You're trying to be picked up by an Uber driver. You might even be looking out for the Uber driver as well and look for a number plate. The Uber driver's looking for you. I'm trying to keep your grandchild safe in the park. It's a completely different problem. People don't understand that geospatial in park, for instance, means that the internet connection, the triangulation of trying to place somebody in parks is most of the time much poorer than on the street. And the other day, while I was thinking about our talk, I was sitting in a bus stop and I looked at my Google map and it had placed me 50 meters away. And it's like, there you go. That's the problem. Why do people not get how that works? So then we're going on to, device settings. Every time a new phone comes out, they play with the settings. It drives me mad. I mean, have you ever thought about how many different phone models there are in the world? And every single time a new phone comes out and they change how the location accuracy is working. Should you turn Wi-Fi off? Should you turn it on? Should you do Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and mobile data and have everything on? And then the player, of course, turns everything down to saving battery, which turns everything to low accuracy. So we are not allowed to change the person's settings. We can make recommendations, which most of the users find really annoying, and they feel we should just be able to work with low accuracy because they haven't got a clue how it works. So, and then, the battery, so I don't even need to say anything. You guys all know about battery chewing issues, right? The only thing I have to say is that for those families who actually get stuck into Magical Park, not a single one has ever complained. So, the game must be good enough that people don't complain and come prepared the second time. No, where do I point? Doesn't want to. Okay, how do we get to the next slide? Evie to the help, Evie to rescue. So basically, these are all the issues or some of the issues that we're experiencing with the user. Now let's go to the next bit. You found it?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Sorry, we'll go one back. So we're selling to councils around the world. We have built Magical Park with the feedback of over 130 cities. Now, this is cities trying to keep their community safe playing our game. So we had to try different functionalities to make it work. We tried teleport. No, we're having dinosaurs in the car park. No, this is not an option. Take teleport out. Okay, cool. Now teleport goes. Let's try something else. So every single time we would try a feature, we would have to test it with all the cities all around the world to figure out whether, they're happy with the solution that we have found. And so that, I think, after 8 years now, we actually getting to a point where I feel quite confident and robust into what we've got. Until we're talking campus, because if you've ever had the issue, now I'm going off into a pet peeve, another one. So, you have a phone, you see my phone here, you see how it's got that little latch here on the side, and we're saying to players, make sure your phone doesn't have a magnet on the case. Oh, no, it doesn't. There's no magnet. And then what's that here? What's that? That's a magnet. So, no, people have absolutely no idea about the case that a magnet can change the entire position of geolocation. So there are so many things that are coming together. It's a real science. So we're trying to cater for all of that and allowing for everything. And we're constantly testing in the background and checking your data from your phone that the player is safe. And then, of course, we're marketing the invisible. So councils are used to having playgrounds you can see. They're very easy to market. Oh, yay, look, there's a new playground. And here we are, and we go like, there's a playground. Oh, you can't see it? You need your phone. So what is the council going to do? They do like one Facebook post a month, where my favorite one was they did an article in a newspaper, and they showed the mayor with the magical park with a black iPad standing in the park. And that was the marketing. Black iPad. You couldn't see anything on it. You know, we've got an invisible playground in the park. Here it is. Oh, God, you know, I don't even know where to start, you know, I'm getting ranting now. And then, of course, you know, we're trying to keep the dinos out of the car park, so we had to put in emergency buttons that would allow us to be quicker than Android Play Store or Apple App Store. So we have full control over every single park in the world and every app aspect you can think. Google and Apple have no idea how quickly we can react without them giving any consent. So we're able to shut parks down. Even the councils have got the ability to shut a park down, to change the opening, closing hours, change content. Say, for instance, we're having a roaming dinosaur in our Prehistoria game. The council is instantly able to shut that one game down, but not the others, because they don't include the T-Rex. So the level of security we have built into the game is absolutely insane, and probably one of the things I'm most proud of. But that is only because geospatial augmented reality is so flippin' complicated. And it's such a science. And then when somebody comes to me and says, you know, like, your app is not as good as Uber, it's like, do you know how much money they have? Do you know how many resources they have? Do you know we're a tiny little studio in Auckland who tries to do the impossible for 8 years just to make a couple of kids around the world happy and teach them about, you know, picking up littering in the park and save the bees and that sort of stuff? So, yeah. And that's kind of like, you know, I think that's already concluding my rant, but if you guys have any specific issues around geospatial issues, and if you've ever tried that, you know, I'm happy to advise you on all the things that can go wrong. And as a council mentor to me once said, when you're doing an AR app, you have to think, what is the worst possible thing that could happen? Imagine you were on the front page of the newspaper because something had happened. What would it be? And for us, it was a child getting run over because it was chasing after game content. And so I've taken that to heart. This was at the very beginning of our journey, when we were just releasing. And you cannot imagine the panic I felt when somebody said to me there is a dinosaur in the car park. And we couldn't shut down the game because we had to go through Android. We had to go through Play Store to get that shut down quick and fast. So that's, you know, I'm really happy with where we're at the moment, but gosh, it was a learning curve. Back to Evie.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for this awesome talk. I wanted to open the floor up for questions, and I have a couple of my own, but we can start taking questions now if you guys have any. Oh. Is that me? It is. That was me. All right. Any takers? I'll get the ball moving. And if you guys have questions, let me know. Come on up. I'll give you a mic or something. Somebody will give you a mic. Is there? Yeah. Volunteer in the back. Thank you. We'll give you a mic. All right. Cool. All right. So first question for the panel. If you could have one thing fixed in your AR development tools, what would it be? Yeah.
Right. Can I know how many of you are developing multiplayer AR games? Can you raise your hand? What about testing multiplayer AR games? So for me as a single developer, it's so hard, you know, right? And especially because I'm doing location-based multiplayer games and I'm using semantics like I need to detect objects, I need to go to certain places, scan. Maybe I was using in my game design, I'm asking players to find a grass field, go there, scan grass, and collect it. So I'm developing inside my lab. I have to go back to real world location to actually test. Of course, I know I can mock it within Unity editor, but still like to see how it appears and do stuff. So I was heavily using Niantic Lightship. They provide this virtual studio, and especially I quite liked, if you haven't tried it, please look at this. They have playback mode, so you can get a scan around you, whatever that real world location, and import that in a format of video. And within the editor, it can actually kind of give you a kind of a simulation, and you can use that, which made my life much more easier. But again, multiplayer, still I couldn't come up with a better way of doing it. So if there's a way to test location-based AR multiplayer games within Unity Editor, that would be the best pick I would go for.
Nice. Yeah, let's talk. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. Next question. So, all right, I think this could be for anyone, but if AR development is so frustrating, why do you stick with it? Who wants to take that?
Every single time I see families or kids play Magical Park, my heart jumps. Seeing the joy, seeing the immersion. We have some players that played for flippin' hours. And it's just, and they're running and they're exercising and they're getting so many kilometers in and running. And then the parents come back to us and they say, oh my God, I've been trying to get our kids to the park and they never want because it's boring. And now all of a sudden they just want to go to the park all the time. And it's those moments that really lift me up. But the other thing that we started doing is we're putting Magical Park into disaster-struck areas. So our team has just decided to put Magical Park into Maui with the government once they have recovered. And they're using it for funding, as a funding mechanism. So they're teaching the government how to use Magical Park to raise funds. Because it's free to play for everybody, but if you fence it off and you have the government officials around it, they basically can raise some funds with it. And so it's become an opportunity to put into cities that have burned down, that have no longer a playground. And as my colleague the other day posted me, because Florida had another hurricane, and she said, there you go. An invisible playground is great because the slides can't fly away. It can't be vandalized. It is always there. You can use the park for other purposes, and you can still have a playground. And so that's a real positive. And no, you can't vandalize something that's AR. At least not, yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Great answer. Does anybody else want to give it a try?
I think for us is we've been doing a lot in the learning space, especially in rural areas. And for us, I think to see the kids look at it and actually go, I can grow up and be this. This actually gives them opportunities to also look, not just learn what they're doing now, but also look and say, oh, I can build this myself in the future. For them to know that this technology is more new and, anyone can pick it up and learn and adapt, that's, that actually opens it up and says, oh, I actually don't need a full 4-year degree and a whole lot of things that's expected. Like you can just pick it up and learn and do. So I think that's been really rewarding. And that's why, even though it's frustrating, we'll, I think, stick with it because the possibilities of what it can open up for people who don't have access to a lot of things is really rewarding.
Yeah, I can agree. I think that for me, this idea of shifting a perspective, making things that are part of your town and part of your community that you may have over time just taken for granted and feels more mundane, it gives you an opportunity to bring it to life again. And I think this idea of allowing people to express creativity by bringing it to life in so many different ways, keeping your surroundings fresh and interesting, and allowing you to sort of shift mindsets and think about it from a different angle is a really, really powerful thing. When I first started dabbling into pervasive and AR games, I was originally tasked with making a game for academic and professional conferences. I remember going to a conference thinking that games were a really good way of getting me to network, because at the time I was extremely introverted and didn't want to talk to anybody. But putting it, that layer, and that playful layer, which I later learned was a paratelic mindset, allowed me to experience it differently and think about it from an angle where it was not nearly as terrifying. So it's a really, really cool tool if you can get it to work. Okay, next question is about the metaverse. Oh, we've got questions. Here we go.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Long-time Pokemon Go player, so I'm one of those guys walking around as well. So I work in the educational space, and we dabble into using AR, but one of the big problems with it is, of course, technology, and having access to tech that can actually properly simulate and be able to show AR for kids as well. I suppose this is more like a where do you think AR is going to evolve towards in sort of the future, looking forward in the next couple of years? Is it going to be staying sort of as a gimmicky thing on our phones, or do you think it will sort of come forward with glasses and, dare I say it, the Apple Vision Pro or something similar-ish? Like, where do you sort of see this evolving?
That's a good question.
So it's quite often when people come and have a look at the AR stuff that we do that they straight away jump to headsets or glasses or something like that. And I always make them aware that one of the things that works with phone is your peripheral vision. So when you're standing face to face with a T-Rex, which is very, very big, you are no longer able to see what's happening in your surrounding. It's literally like being in VR. So until we're having tools that are recognizing your surroundings and are recognizing automated danger, it can signal danger, it can switch off the screen, or at least lower the change the transparency to make sure that you're staying safe. And we're not even having to talk about a car coming towards you. It could be that you're standing on the ground and you're about to trip over something, or that there's a hole in the ground or something like that. Until we have some safety mechanisms that are intelligent and are keeping you safe while you're wearing glasses or contact lenses or whatever, I think we're not there yet. And this is, again, me speaking from a health and safety point of view. It's something that we're working on as well, where we're looking at how can we help keeping the players safe. We haven't had too many accidents, but even with a phone where you can see around it, we have had players running into trees or something like that. So I think that needs to be done side by side, and then you might see more adoption. Anyone else?
I think our take on it has been like better game design and better experience design. So even the phones can actually have a really good experience. For us, I think we want to be as device agnostic as possible, because otherwise we're not addressing the concern of accessibility at all. Like, a lot of people cannot have access to headsets and devices. And there's also the other reason that people don't feel very safe inside headsets. So people can have motion sickness. There's so many other things that it can't. So we want to create experiences that's for everyone. And we want people to think this is not excluded to people who have the privileged access of being able to get a headset. So we want to design, if it works for the headset, great, but it's going to have to work for devices that everyone can use. And, phones and other stuff are already there in schools. And, that's, I think, one of the reasons where at least we would like it to go towards that. Rather than going on the opposite side of, Like, I know my developers are absolutely stoked to have the Vision Pro whenever they get access to it. But, from a usability perspective, we just don't see it getting into industries that quickly.
Yeah, great answers. Great answers. I think I echo a lot of the sentiment of, especially the one about safety, is that, this idea of things just sort of taking over your vision, especially with us continuing to use the model that we're used to with the phone being this sort of disruptive pop-up type of thing that can't coexist with something that's on your head all the time. So this sort of pop-up modality of just like, I want to be in your face right now, it's going to have to change to something that's a little more contextually aware, understanding your surroundings and where it's appropriate to give you certain bits of information and certain streams of it. So awesome. Thank you for the question. Yeah.
What's your favorite AR game or experience you've had in the last year?
Haha. All right. Does anybody want to go first? Okay. Okay, yeah. Okay. It can't be one of my own. It can't be Niantic or anything like that. That's too easy. Okay. I would say a awesome, like, besides the laser dance, which hasn't come out yet, I do think that there's one that I thought was really inspired called Cubism. It's a puzzle game that you can play. Originally, it was a VR game, and it just used really precise controls. And I think one of the reasons it inspired me, because it's absolutely not one of those on-the-go geospatial games, but it gave me a sense of this is what the next a generation of desktop game and simple casual game experience could look like. This is the next generation of Minesweeper, where you're just sort of like idling at your desk, you're waiting for something to do, and then suddenly you get this little puzzle thing that you can start putting together, and it's just in your hands, and you can kind of just hang out with it. And it was just really fun and pleasant, and it felt like one of those sort of interstitial experiences that you didn't have to like pull up a desktop or something to do. So I thought it was really cool.
For me, I really like Peridot, that concept, because having that agency or having the ability for me to customize my own game assets within the game, which is unique to my gameplay and my preferences, I really like it. And also, I think it's well designed in AR concepts-wise, like most of the simplicity and also the way they are using the developers are not like overusing AR content. They are not like overlaying too much content around the real world. Also, I quite like it. So yeah, Peridot, it's my favorite.
I'm gonna go a little bit around your question, James. But when I was at Datacom, we got to work with HoloLens on a project from Pearson Education. And it blew my mind because it really showed me the power of augmented reality done right. So they had, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of HoloLens Patient. So it's basically an actor that is being prepared to simulate different medical situations. So say, for instance, you're having a heart attack. I mean, when you're a medical student, you can't just have the lecturer bringing somebody in and it's like, and this person is going to have a heart attack now, you know, like, wait for it, 5 seconds, and here it is, right? That's not how it works. So to train up a doctor or a nurse in medical issues, so sorry, this is not a game, but regardless, they had loads of these different cases of somebody, you know, like who's having a heart attack, who's having a stroke, and the different stages of it with the life signals and everything. And these actors were doing it so well. And so you put on your HoloLens as a nurse or a doctor as a student, and you sit your AR patient in a chair, and then you're interacting with them. And you're being asked questions, you know, and you have to ask the patient questions. And then you go to the next level up. So, you know, a week has passed and, you know, the patient is getting worse. You haven't done the right diagnosis for this patient. And the way how these doctors can learn, identify medical issues in such a realistic way just blew my mind because, I mean, yeah, what are the odds of bringing somebody in that has got, you know, like a serious viral infection, you know, that could infect everybody else or, you know, is about to die on the chair. So that to me was a really, really well done experience and it's worthwhile, absolutely worthwhile.
Awesome. Great question. Oh, we've got another one.
Nothing ever? This is the end of the world?
It's the end of the world.
Yeah, it should be called abracadaver. Never mind. What's the best VR game you've played in the last year?
Oh, this VR game. Okay, so I have a few favorites. I'll go ahead and say one of my favorites is Super Hot. I think Super Hot. I felt like it. I know it wasn't built originally for VR, but it felt like it. The idea that you basically feel like you're in the Matrix. It's the concept is basically the world doesn't move unless you move, and so the world moves as fast or as slow as you do, and you're trying to dodge bullets and do all of these cool things. So, amazing game that felt like the whole premise was around this idea of embodiment, this idea of not just feeling like you're there, but acting like you're there, and you being that sort of primary like character and acting that role out. So, really, really powerful stuff.
Little confession, not a gamer. I get extreme motion sickness with VR. I think my team's managed to get me on it once in the last 3 years. So, yeah, they're favorites. Haven't played much, but yes.
Yeah, same here. I don't play much VR games, but I kind of like Beat Saber VR. I don't know why, but kind of more like if making me physically active and kind of maybe. Yeah, I don't play much VR games.
Awesome. All right. Is that time?
I think it should be time of it.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. It's been a great audience.